Well, Hunter, appreciate you being here today, bro.
I'm thrilled to be here, man. It's great.
Yeah. So I found out about you through bags.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that.
It was a fun day getting to meme coins. That my one
Yeah.
day of experience is
Okay,
probably the
very
most
nice.
most dopamine I've ever gotten.
It's a lot of dopamine. Yeah.
It's crazy. How'd you end up starting that thing?
So I mean, I've been working in apps for a very long time, and I did really well in social apps. And I kind of figured, well, I'm getting a little older now. I'm 25. I wanted to kind of build something that was more of a long-term project. That wasn't something that I spent a year or two on, but like a business that I could spend 5 years on,
Yep.
and something that I could like kind of grow up and still run the business in my 30s, and like it's totally fine. In consumer social, it's hard to stay like tapped in as you
Yep.
get older. So I figured consumer finance, I have a much longer, runway in that space.
It was crazy how it seemed like the app's launch almost coincided with this like gold rush or frenzy.
Yeah, man.
Probably.
We were preparing for like a long time. We started the company in summer of 2023. We kind of started ideating, and I knew crypto was going to come back.
Yeah.
Like I knew it was going to happen, and I just wanted to be like live when it comes back. Just because like if you're on chain and you're live, like you can actually just get volume.
Yep.
Because there's so many eyeballs coming in.
So for those that don't know, Bags is essentially like it's like you have group chats. Essentially, you could see all the coins that different people hold. It's like connected to most people's Twitter.
Yep.
So you could see people's handle and see what could you see like what their biggest holding in? It kind of ranks them, right?
Yeah, ranks them.
So very fun platform, especially if you don't know what you're doing and you just start getting into some group
Yeah.
chats, seeing what other people are holding,
Absolutely.
and go from there. But before you got into that, what was the intro into starting apps?
So I started when I was 17, 18. It was like end of high school, and I just had an idea for an app. It was a social app. It didn't work out. It was about 2.5 years of me just learning and failing and iterating and just making lots of mistakes for multiple years, which was honestly the best thing for me because I learned so much from that experience. I hired developers in India that were outsourced, spend $70,000. It's gone.
Happens, man. It happens.
Right. I was able to convince people to, give me $150,000. I was 19 when I was raising, and would go to all the startup events, was like super engaged in that space. And then, after about 2.5 years of building this first product, COVID hit. And the app basically was like it's like a Gen Z Foursquare is what it was. Like go to locations, get points, rank on leaderboards. Obviously, like lockdown happens, and like, what are you gonna do, right? Like, the app is over.
Yep.
So I took it as like a sign from God. Like, okay, this is not my $1 billion app, but I really love building apps, and I like the process of doing it, and I love the design aspect, and like just really focusing on product, because that's what I did the most of with my first company. So then I'd say like within 6-8 weeks of that app failing, I built another app as a designer, not as a founder, with a couple friends of mine, and it went top 10 in social. It's called Zoom University. It was really big during COVID. So it was like basically a live college double dating app. So it'd be like you and me would have like a room, right?
Yeah.
We'd have a video chat room, and then we would match with like other girls, and it'd be like a girl and her best friend. So it'd be a 4-way video chat. And then there was like a private chat with the guys and a private chat with the girls. So if the girls are like, "Now these guys are weird, let's leave," like then they can like both like double opt in to then switch out the guys.
Nice.
And then we run through like a sorting algorithm.
That's funny. So almost like a
Yeah.
live Tinder essentially, but with a friend, which
Yeah.
almost I feel like makes it feel like safer, I'm sure, for the girls.
Well, that's the thing. We had a 7-to-1 girl to guy ratio.
Whoa.
Because the girls were so like,
Yeah.
they were so comfortable, which was really nice. And then the app probably did like a couple 100,000 downloads. Nothing insane. But it made
was
like
proved a point to you.
yeah, it proved that I could do it.
Yeah.
I'd spent 2.5 years failing, and then like suddenly we're top 10 in social, and it's like the app is on, we went Forbes article and shit. So I'm like, okay, this is doable. Like it was a proof of concept. Like I can do this again. And then I just kept building, and I got I got recruited by one of the co-founders and the former president of Musical.ly. And he had sold it for $1 billion to ByteDance to create TikTok. He recruited me when I was 21. I worked for him for probably 2 years, a little less than 2 years. We built half a dozen apps together.
Sweet.
One of them that we built became one of the largest Make New Friends apps in the world, called Wink. We did about, I want to say 50 or 60 million downloads on Wink. Super successful app, went #1 in the App Store on that one. That app was essentially like, it was like a swiping app. So you like swipe left and right, but the way it started was when you'd swipe right on someone and then they would swipe right on you, you could add them on Snapchat. So it kind of made this like really easy way for people to like just make friends on Snapchat. And there was a bunch of apps that kind of blew up at the same time that were doing similar things. And Wink was just like one of the biggest ones. And then I worked for him for about 2 years, built everything else. We built dating apps, we built mindfulness apps, productivity apps, like everything. Like we built all of it. And then I built a company called NGL, which became the largest anonymous social app in history. And that's what freed me from my 9-to-5.
Nice. I mean, apps is such a unique, when people are trying to not do the typical thing of the 9-to-5 grind, it seems like nowadays everyone's drawn to like, e-com, something more like agencies. That the app niche isn't one of those ones that is like heavily promoted on social. What is that journey even like to start an app? Because I think most people are put off by the fact that it's a lot of code, and there's almost a steeper learning curve, I imagine.
I think it's one of the steepest learning curves, especially consumer social. Like I think consumer social is the hardest industry to find PMF in the world. Like because you're selling essentially nothing, right? You're selling a feeling, and so I think with apps, it's very hard to find product market fit. Consumer social is like a whole other beast because it's just like super difficult. As far as like building, I mean, the way that I build now is I just start with like an idea. I'll design it usually myself because that's kind of how I got started. And then I have way better engineers than me that will then go and build it. And then we just I try to get a minimum viable product live quickly and then just iterate and just like move through it and just change shit. But I like to kind of get live as soon as possible just because, I want to just get it out there and see if it has legs.
It's interesting how like with e-com, because that's like the world I kind of know, you could quickly test things with like Facebook ads, see if this is a product that people are interested in. But with apps, you gotta put in a lot of work before you find out whether someone's interested.
You do, yeah. I think it's gonna change though. I think that it's gonna, I think the golden age of apps is coming. I really believe that. I think that, and I've been kind of predicting this for many years since I started like 8 years ago. I've been really thinking about like, there's gonna be a time where like the phone becomes so mature that we move to a new compute platform. Like it could be glasses, contacts, whatever it is, right? Yep. And when we move to a different compute platform, it's going to open up this insane golden age of like new apps. And it's going to coincide with when AI tools are so good. Yeah. So it's like we're going to have immersive augmented reality and the ability to create apps with our voice. I think that's the golden age of apps and like when everyone's building them. Because like the niche is growing. Like, when I started, nobody was in it. And now there's like more guys and there's a little community now on Twitter. That was non-existent, 7-8 years ago.
What's your thoughts on AI right now? Are there tools like currently out that you feel are kind of a game changer, or is it more something that, people kind of see on the horizon?
I think Cursor is really good.
Cursor?
Yeah, Cursor is really good.
Not familiar with it.
Most of my engineers use it because it's very helpful.
What is it exactly?
It's like an AI coding coding environment, right? So you can talk with an LLM and you can like solve problems and like build apps a lot faster, just because you're not writing every single line of code. And yeah, I mean that one I think is super big. A lot of my engineer friends use that one.
Nice. That one's interesting. It sounds interesting in the fact that, especially when you have like issues in code, it takes so long to figure those out. And
it's super fun.
I'm sure those AI tools can speed up that process dramatically.
100%.
Want to ask you about like viral marketing?
Yeah.
Because it's something with bags that was pretty impressive in the fact that, you have this new product.
Yep.
And then within almost like a few days, it seemed like, especially with that gold rush that happened with meme coins, that like blew up. What have you come to learn about marketing and specifically like how to go viral with that?
I mean, everything I do is I try to build like organic virality. So I like to focus on building what I call like a viral loop, which is like something that you're doing, like an action that you're doing where you're sharing something externally and then like your friend is seeing what you shared, and then they're coming into the same experience, and then they share it as well. And they share it because you shared it, and you shared it because your other friend shared it. So it's really like about, I build these like loops where you just kind of, for bags, for example, the way we kind of got that company started is we had a growth loop about sharing your bags link, right? So your bags link is like your wallet address. It has the ability for people to send you money. People can follow your trades. It's just like your like profile link. So we had a loop where we just got like hundreds of thousands of people to come in, generate a link using their Twitter, just log in with Twitter, and then immediately share it. And that got us, like, that growth hacked us for the first, couple months. Like, that got us, lots and lots of people in. And it only worked because it was like this viral loop where like I'm sharing my link, you then see my link, and you're like, what's this? Like, let me do this. And then it's a 2-step process for you to do it. And then your friend sees it, right? So it just kind of continues snowballing. And that's kind of how we got it started.
And do you guys do any like influencer marketing or anything?
So we
like
haven't
that?
yet, but we're going to.
Nice.
Yeah, we're definitely going to do a lot of influencer stuff.
What are you kind of learning about that? Because that's a part where I'm currently at with my business, where I'm about to kind of step into that domain, trying to learn a lot about it. What have you kind of figured out so far?
Influencer stuff is, to me, it's really about seeding it, right? Like, it's about how do I just get like 1,000 people to download or interact with whatever I'm pushing to them, and then there's some kind of viral mechanic that then uses those 1,000 people as like the first people in the door, and then get them to share it, get them to invite a friend. So I like to use influencers really, like, I prefer smaller accounts. I prefer like UGC type creators that like don't have a lot of followers, that are like, you can pay them on a CPM basis. And then I just like to test content. And then once I get like a winning piece of content for TikTok, then I just run it like
As an ad,
and I run it in every market. I translate it. I'll do variations on it, change the sound, whatever it might be, and then just push it really hard. So it's like, to me, it's like seeding, testing, and then you run paid.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the model, like, because it's already proven to work organically. And then that kind of changes things.
It does. Yeah, it totally does.
Because it gives you the proof of concept. Like, how much does it cost to build an app? Like, if someone's hearing the conversation and let's say they just graduated college, right now all they know is that they don't want to do the standard 9-to-5 thing.
Yep.
They're obviously being pulled in a million directions. Is creating apps something that like you would recommend to people, or is it just the learning curve not worth it?
I absolutely recommend it.
Yeah.
Everybody. Yes.
Really?
It's the best business in the world.
Interesting.
But
I wouldn't have expected that.
It's very hard. I won't sugarcoat it. It's really hard. It's an industry where like you have to cut your teeth. Like, you have to crawl through the mud. You have to kind of do your time, if that makes sense. Like, because it's product, right? So it's like, you're only going to know how to build good product if you build product, and then you see what people think about it. And then it's very much like a business that just requires you to constantly be moving forward and building new things and kind of just collect failures. So I think if you're a young person, if you're, in high school, in college, in your 20s, like, it's definitely something to look at. Absolutely. Because to me, it's like the greatest creative expression. It's like you're building a product that then can be distributed to literally billions of people worldwide. If you want to like impact culture, if you want to impact society at large, like, the way we interact with the world is through apps, right? So it's like, if there's one business that you want to actually like really scale, I think it's the one that can scale the most. But I think that the barrier is really, really high because of the learning curve of like, how do I make a successful product? Like, why would, this copy work for this app? Why do the buttons look like this? Like, all these tiny little things that you don't really think about. I think that comes from just years of trying and failing.
100%. I mean, it's so crazy how in e-com you could change the add to cart button from, let's say, blue to red, and it could change conversions by 50%.
Literally.
And I have to imagine with an app that's even like, there's a million different little things like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a hard game to figure out.
It's a very hard game to figure out. With my company NGL, we built the app in about 3 weeks, and
that's crazy.
Yeah, that was a fast one to build.
Yeah, that's insane.
But then for about 6 months, nobody used it, so it was like full crickets. Like, there's no one on the app. I knew it would work the whole time, though. I was convinced it was going to work. And then we spent 6 months just trying to seed it. Just like, how do we get this to, how do we get into like a high school friend graph and like have this just start flying? So we spent 6 months just trying different ways of doing that, doing different strategies. Eventually we had a TikTok that went viral, got us 1 million views, and it was like the first week of June, and it was like one day it was like 1,000 downloads, and then like 2 days later it was like 1.5 million downloads in one day.
Holy shit.
90,000 downloads an hour, like a level of like just, and we're also making money at the same time. And I had a job, right? So I was, I was making $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
And then we were making that in a day. So it was like,
That's a big switch up, huh?
it broke my brain. It broke my dopamine.
What were those days like? Like, what was going on? What was going through your? Yeah, I have to imagine.
I didn't sleep for like 2 months, honestly. But it was great. It was like, it went way more viral than I expected, right? I thought the ceiling was 10 million downloads, and we just crossed 250 million downloads, which is crazy. I meet people like every day that have used the app, which is like, to me, it's like the most humbling and amazing experience to meet someone who's used it, because it just went bigger than I expected.
So if like to almost extract that model and apply it to like other businesses, it would be essentially like what we were just saying before. You find a piece of organic content that went viral, went very viral.
Yep.
And then you put marketing dollars behind that.
Yes.
That's a great fucking strategy.
It's a great
I
strategy.
love that strategy.
It's a great strategy.
Yeah, that is fantastic. So during that time for you, like, was the app crack? Because when you're going with 1 million downloads in one day, when you, or was it 1 day or 1 week? I'm sorry.
One day, 1.5 million downloads, and then it kept going.
Yeah,
obviously. Yeah.
And how, like, does the app? What do you do about the capacity?
So it did scale. It scaled nicely.
Did you know it was gonna scale?
No.
Is there any way to know if something like that's gonna scale?
I kind of like, we had good engineers.
Yeah. That's
so
probably the key. Right?
I was confident also, like the tech stack was pretty simple, right? So like the point of failure in the stack was like a couple small areas. So we knew like if something went down, like we knew what it was going to be. And we had like a couple of small outages, but like nothing crazy. It didn't impact us for more than like an hour. I did not know that it was going to scale. Surprisingly, that app NGL, it's run on Firebase. So if there's engineers watching, like most people are like, Firebase can't scale. Firebase scaled to 250 million downloads for us. We had 10, 20 million concurrent users. Like we would send out notifications and like millions of people would come onto the app at the same time. And it scaled very nicely, which is crazy. Surprising, honestly.
It's, well, as you're saying that stuff, it's making me think about like, nowadays everyone talks about your like personal brand as like digital real estate. It's like the best digital real estate you could have is a super strong personal brand. But as I'm thinking about apps, man, that's real digital real estate.
Absolutely.
Because like, are you nowadays? The app's still running, right?
Yep.
And so, are you doing much for the app now, or is
not NGL? No.
Yeah.
No. I have co-founders that run it day to day, and my time is focused on bags. That's like my main focus. And then, I'm very lucky that I was able to kind of transition out of the business, but like, still remain involved, but like at an arm's distance, because I really wanted to build something bigger. And, I think a lot of people kind of they have their first like major win. And like for me, I had built successful apps prior, but I hadn't made money on them. But you get your first major win. I think a lot of people kind of fall into this trap of this dopamine treadmill and just trying to do it again and do it again. And like, I kind of looked at it, I took a step back and I was like, at the time, I think the app had like 150 million downloads. Now it's 250 million. And I was kind of like, well, I don't want to compete with myself. I feel like I kind of did that. Like I did consumer social. I built the biggest anonymous app ever. I meet people that use the app. It's been a massive door opener for me. I've gotten to meet everyone that I wanted to meet in my industry because of it. So I figured like I don't want to compete with myself in that realm. I did that, right? Like it's like a big check. Like I got that one. And then that's why I was just like, well, let me build consumer finance because I don't need to get 250 million people to use this app to make hundreds of millions or billions of dollars. I could get like 5 million downloads and have a super successful fintech business. And that's what I was like, let's just change the paradigm. Like, let's not compete with myself for downloads. Let's try to see like average revenue per user. Let's get that super high, right? With like an app like NGL, the average revenue per user is quite low. And we monetize very well. The app, makes, 8 figures a year. But it's a very small percentage that actually monetizes.
And with bags, it's like you get a transaction. There's a small transaction fee.
There's a small transaction fee, and then we split that fee. So, for example, if I join with your link,
Yep.
then you get half my fees.
So there's affiliate.
There's affiliate. Yeah, there's baked in affiliate with the bags links. So you know, if you sign up with whoever's link it is, you get half the fees, and then if you trade based on someone else's trade, like if you're just scrolling in the chat or scrolling on the homepage and you see someone make a trade and you copy the trade, then they also get some of the fees.
Oh shit, I didn't know that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
So we have people that have made like tens of thousands of dollars on bags.
Imagine.
Which is really funny because it was just like very unexpected.
Yeah.
But like we have people that have made lots of money on bags just from people just copying their trades and just, you know, saying like, oh, okay, I like that coin, like I'll buy it. And then we have like a whole earnings part of the app now where you can kind of see how much money you've made. And you know, I really want to take it in a bunch of different directions. I feel like with bags, the hardest thing has been the technical moat to build the product because it's finance and it's trading, and landing transactions is very hard, and there's a lot of complicated data that's being managed in the background. So we're now at the place where I feel like I can turn the growth on. We were kind of just in this building phase for a while.
I feel that. And I even remember when it first launched, and the audience, like, or the people on the app, I think it was a lot of their first experiences with crypto. And they're like, this app doesn't work. The app doesn't work. And I'm like, dude, the slippage is too... these things, yeah, I know. It's complicated to figure out all those technical details and to figure out how to get these coins and do all that stuff. I can't even imagine trying to solve that equation because it's a difficult one.
It's very hard.
Yeah.
I've got great engineers though. That are far better than I am with that stuff. But yeah, but that's what I wanted, right? Like
of course.
I kind of made the decision. I was like, well, I mean, I could build simple apps and like we could run the same play and like I could just go build more of these, you know, consumer social apps. But I was like, you know what? Let's take a big swing. You know, let's just do something bigger.
And when you think about hiring, like finding those engineers, what do you think about? Where do you go to find engineers? And because hiring nowadays, especially when you have the whole world at your fingertips with remote work being so easily done.
Yeah.
How do you think about like where to look for people, how to find them? 'Cause it's not always the easiest thing to figure out whether you want to go with someone from the US or whatever.
Yeah. So though my approach, I have a distributed team, so they're all over the world, but my engineers are all in Europe.
Nice.
My CTO's in Europe. My front end, back end, they're all in Europe.
Any reason for that?
Just because there's a lot of talent in Europe.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good technical talent. You know, all over Europe. Like, you know, Portugal has great talent. Austria has great talent. Poland has great talent. Spain. I mean, there's a lot of talent over there. It's hard to find good devs that are also in crypto. It's very hard, right? So that's why like I wanted to hire in the US. Like I wanted to hire in Miami, but it was just very hard to find people that had the experience that I wanted because, you know, our guys have been at other wallet companies. They've worked on their own startups. Like they're in the crypto game and they're app guys, which is like super hard because, you know, crypto, most of the APIs, most of the software you have to use, there's no documentation. There's no forums of people helping you. Like, whereas like with traditional apps, like there's so many places to go for resources and like there's all these API docs. With crypto, it's just not like that. So we had to find really good devs, and the way we found them is just some of them were community members that just knew about bags and, you know, reached out to us. Others, we just went through recruiters. We went through, you know, different websites. I mean, my head of ops has probably interviewed like 50 engineers at this point. So we've gone through a lot of people.
How do you think about like lifestyle design now with like having to run a team, being at the head of like this new project? But it also seems like you have a pretty good balance on things.
I'd say, yeah, I'm working on it. I'd say that, balance is, I didn't have balance last year or the years prior.
Do you even care about balance though? Like, does it matter?
I didn't care about it until I kind of realized that like the whole purpose of working is to like live life, right? And I feel like I was just working. I was just like sitting in my office in my house, just like with my headphones on every single day. And I wasn't enjoying the fruits of my labor. So now I'd say I'm more balanced. It's not 50-50 at all. Like it's majority of my time I'm still working, but I take a lot more time now to do other things, to travel, to see my friends, and to kind of live like, the whole purpose of working is you want to be free, and you're not free when you're sitting, even you're sitting at your house grinding. That's not real freedom. It's like freedom for me is like I pick up and I travel all over the world with my friends, and we just work at random locations, and that's cool. And that's kind of like what I've been doing over the last 3 to 6 months.
Where have you been traveling to?
I went to Singapore, Thailand, Bali, Bahamas, Portugal, Colombia.
Just on the road?
Just on the road, yeah. Just
Nice,
moving
dude.
around.
Nice. What do you think about, because being an entrepreneur and like traveling in that way, it almost feels, especially when you're going places like Asia, where
Yep.
you don't really always know the connection and the Wi-Fi and all that stuff. What do you think you were able to like stay productive and it was easy to stay on top of things?
Yeah, it was pretty easy.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the times when I do these trips, like I bring like my co-founder, I bring like my
So you had the team with
engineers.
you?
Yeah, like when we went to Asia, I had my team with me, and then I had a bunch of friends with me as well. So it was a great environment. And then yeah, with other trips, like it's always easy to stay on top of it, just because I mean I've got a great co-founders. I've got great people that know what they're doing and kind of own a lane of the business, right? Like one of my co-founders, who's my CTO, he controls engineering, right? So it's like he's the boss when it comes to that stuff, and I like to just hire smart people and like give them autonomy.
Nice.
And then I look at it as like when you do that, like you're putting trust in people, but you have to put trust in the right people.
Yeah.
So I'm lucky that I have good guys, and they're very hard workers.
How was that experience? Because I think for a lot of like young guys, that's almost the dream for them. Is like get my friends, get my team, and then let's go travel. Let's get a cool house in Bali for a few weeks and grind away, and then enjoy life at the same time. Was
100%.
that like eye opening in some ways, or
really eye opening? Yeah, because I had just been working since I was end of high school, right?
Yeah.
I've just been like I didn't go to college. I briefly went to USC, but I never went to any parties. I didn't live on campus. Like I was barely there because I hated it.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really have like a late teens, early 20s. I feel like I just didn't have those years like other people had them. Like I was like working a job at like 20 years old, like going to an office every day, like building apps. So I feel that when I got that financial freedom and I was able to like, zoom out, I was like, well, I have to just like live life. And then I did that and I was like, this is exactly why I'm working. And I feel like it energized me more and it gave me more motivation because I got to see like, oh, I worked really hard. Now I get to live this life. But if I work even harder, like I see another level up here that I can increase to. And it just kind of helped me put into perspective, that like, this is why I'm working. This is the whole purpose.
do you regret like being so focused? I mean, obviously you're so happy with how things have turned out, but does part of you like wish you stayed like a kid longer with like going to college, enjoying things a little bit more?
A part of me. Yeah. A part of me for sure. I mean, I was always into like apps and like computers. So like I was like, 10 years old and I was modding my Minecraft server with my friends and like breaking the game and like changing the way it looked and like doing all that stuff. So like I was kind of always in that mind space. But yeah, there's a part of me that's like, would have been nice to have more of those experiences. But also at the same time, it's like I'm okay to trade that for like the experience I have now.
Yep.
Because I still feel, sometimes I still feel like I'm 19 sometimes.
What do you think though about like the young kid who's pretty ambitious and they're 18, 19, they're like I just want to start a company. I just want to lock in, go monk mode. Like I don't want to talk to anybody. I want to silence the rest of the world and just try to like build something, do something. I go back and forth with that, like whether that's something people should aspire to or not.
I think that if you have the stomach for it and it's going to be really hard and you're willing to do it and you're really passionate about whatever that problem is that you're trying to solve, I think it's super worth it. But you have to have that passion. Like I'm a big believer that like you don't want to chase money. You want to chase your passion, but you have to just make sure that your passion can make money. That's like really important. So I feel like with a lot of people, they have dreams and aspirations that like, there's just not any monetary gain there. So if you can find a passion that like if you work really hard, you can also make money in, that's like the perfect thing to do. And that's why I just tell people like try apps, try software. You might love it because there's a lot of areas that you can kind of fit in. Like you don't have to be a design guy. You don't have to be an engineering guy. You could be a marketing guy. You could be just like, you know, like a growth operator. Like you could work in so many realms of that business. So it's very worth it.
Yeah. It's something I learned from, do you know Danco?
Yes.
He was telling me, he was like, I think shiny object syndrome is like the best thing a young guy could do.
Yeah, when you're young, of course.
Yeah.
When you're like 17, 18, like try everything. Like just bounce
Jump
around.
from one thing to, if you don't,
You got nothing to lose, right?
no
like,
doubt.
Yeah, and I tell young people all the time, like, you know, just try.
Yeah.
Because you have so much time. You know, if you're in your teens, early 20s, like you have so much time. You know, most people don't figure it out until they're like mid to late 30s, you know, if not even later than that. So I feel like if the earlier you start, you know, it's like there's a concept of either you pay now or you pay later, but either way you're going to pay.
Yep.
So it's like I kind of just chose, well, I'll pay during my early years so I don't have to pay later. So I tell people all the time, like, yes, do it, try it. But also you need to enjoy the process. If you don't enjoy it, it's just not worth it.
And a big part of that, like I feel like when you're able to stay really focused on tasks, something I struggle with sometimes, like if I'm able to turn off my phone and work for 3 straight hours, I'm gonna get so much more done than if I spent like the whole day working, but I was kind of in and out. So if you're able to like find that focus for yourself, you can find a little bit more balance in your day.
Absolutely.
But it's hard to find that focus.
hard.
Have you been like, how do you think about that?
I just I have a routine in the morning. When I do the routine, my day is really productive. When I don't do the routine, my day is not as productive. So I kind of learned like, okay, there's things that I need to do, and to get me in the right mindset, like I don't check my phone when I wake up.
Nice.
Which is very hard.
In the same room as you, or
it's like on the floor.
Okay.
Like, you know, like I don't put it on my bedside table. Like it's on the floor, just away from me. Because my phone is just like peak anxiety. Because every time I pick it up, there's 50 people asking me for something and all these notifications. So it's like it became just like a very anxious thing. So I don't check my phone in the morning. You know, I start the day. I do grounding in my backyard. Like I stretch. I do my push-ups and like just a little workout. I'll read at least a chapter of a book. You know, I'll put some music on and just like vibe. You know, I'll write down like things I'm grateful for, manifestations. You know, I'll eat a healthy breakfast. Like I'll take my supplements. Like if I just do all those things, then I sit down at my desk and it's like lock-in time. And I feel like the one aspect of traveling and doing all that stuff is like I'm not at my house. I'm not in my normal routine. But I feel like that's like the only thing that's missing from when I travel. But yeah, I think that not having your phone next to you is actually really important.
it's crazy how much of it, like there's so many habits right now that people talk about that are like detrimental to men, whether it's like porn, social media, just like not going to bed at a reasonable hour. If you just sleep with your phone in a different room or away from your bedside,
away from you.
all those bad habits, or the majority of those bad habits, go away.
Absolutely. And I think young men, especially nowadays, like I think we're dealing with a crisis of purpose. There's a lot of young men, like, you know, got lied to from, you know, from early childhood about like you gotta go to school, then you gotta go to college, and you gotta go get a job, and then you're going to make lots of money. And it's like they come out of college and there's no jobs and the money's not great and inflation's killing them. And it's just like, holy shit, you're like, you know, what's going on? And I think a lot of young guys, especially like, you know, in the dating pool, right? If you're a young 19-year-old guy, like the girls your age are dating guys that are older and successful. So it's like, it's super demoralizing for young men. And I think that, you know, it's a crisis of purpose, really was what it is. So I tell young guys, like, try to find your purpose as quickly as possible by just trying a bunch of shit. And if you try 5 things over the course of multiple years, you will find that one that like really makes you feel good. And then you can go all in on mission and purpose and like really focus. But a lot of men struggle nowadays, and I feel for them. Yeah.
No, I mean, I see it and hear about it as well. It's like I think the purpose is such a good way to put it, because it's exactly that. Like,
yeah,
they have a job or they haven't found a job yet, and the one thing they feel like they're really lacking in is that
Mhm.
purpose.
Absolutely.
But to the point of what you were saying before about like just trying different things,
Hmm.
like I think just solely taking responsibility
100%.
and ownership over something and a product or something, like having something as your own,
Yeah.
um, even if it's not like your purpose, quote
Mhm.
unquote, it 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 becomes in a way your
Mhm.
purpose, or you feel so responsible for it that you're like, I need to do this thing, and it might not be a purpose, but it's a mission.
Yes,
And
it's a
it's just,
mission.
yeah, it's just as strong.
Men need mission.
Yeah,
I think it's
agree with
super
that.
important. And I think that if you don't have mission, you can create it, like literally just go to the gym every day.
Yeah.
Like eat clean, right? Like
Mhm.
start there, start with just like improving yourself, read books, get more information, become more developed, man. And I think that like, trauma builds men into with better character, right? Like it really does. Like if you go through hard things, if you go through struggle, like it makes you a better man. It makes you someone that has more information to share with your kids and your grandkids eventually. So I feel like when you're young, just like go struggle, like just spend the time struggling, because it'll make you, it'll pay in dividends, especially with the lessons you learn.
It's like you learn through failure, but yet you learn through failure and you get successful through failure.
You do.
But yet we are so hesitant to fail. Like if you could just like, if you focus on failing faster,
Yeah.
you will skyrocket. Like
I say that all the time. Literally, I'm always saying to people like, just fail faster, because
Yeah.
the faster you fail, the faster you're going to succeed eventually. And I tell people like, you want to seek rejection and failure as your goal. If you just get into the mindset of like, I am going to just fail over and over again, and I'm going to just like throw it against the wall over and over again, and every time I'm going to tweak and I'm going to get better and I'm going to learn. And if you just adopt the mindset of like just loving the struggle of it, like you're going to get out pretty quickly.
Yep.
The second you can kind of arrive at that place, and to me, I think I arrived at that place in 2021. I built, I think, 5 or 6 apps that year and shipped all of them. And the last one that I shipped at the very end of the year is what ultimately became NGL. Because I was just addicted to like, I'm going to ship this, and if it fails, like I don't care.
Yeah.
Because I think this is cool. And if it fails, it goes on my portfolio website because the design looks good, and like, it doesn't matter, right? Like it looks cool. So I just tell people like, yeah, failure is just your portfolio. So you want a really big portfolio of failure. And then if you just build like that, then eventually, but you do it enough times, it's going to work. And then you kind of reset. It's almost like Monopoly. Like that's how I felt after NGL. Was like I went around the board and I collected my $200. I passed go, and then you do it again. And I think every time that I do it, the self-doubt becomes a little bit less, but you're still battling a lot of the same things. I have a lot of friends that, they had one win and then they struggle to have a second one, and then they do. And then it's like, can I do it a third time? And you kind of just go through this constant cycle until you realize that like, yes, you can do it. It's just because it's a process. You have to love the game.
Exactly. And I mean, Hermosa always talks about this, but I think it's such a good point of like the Rocky cutscene lasts 2 minutes in the movie and 2 years in real life. Like,
It's true.
When you're in that failure, like you said, it took, was it 2.5 years?
2.5 years to get my
failure.
first one that worked, kind of.
To get your first one that kind of worked.
Took 5 years from the time I started to becoming a millionaire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a really long time when you're in it.
Yeah.
Like on the outside, when you just say 5 years and at the end that you become a millionaire, like that is a lot easier when you have that light at the end of the tunnel, but you don't know that light's going to be there. Especially like when you're you finish year 1 and you're like, oh shit, I still know nothing.
Yeah.
And I'm still in the red and
just treading water.
Just trying to tread water. And
yeah.
I don't know if I can do this thing. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm too dumb for this. Maybe maybe I don't want it enough. Like all these thoughts, it's very easy to quit in those times. It's very hard to just like keep that relentless focus on it.
No, it's very true. Very, very, very true. I think that those early years for me were really hard because you're right. You don't see a light at the end of the tunnel. And that's why I was just like, I kept building and kept building. And then things were slowly working for me. So it's like, I think really it's about just knowing that it's possible.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, for me, it was like, it just took a few apps. And then I was like, okay, I can do this. You know, this can be done. But yeah, I mean, it took 5 years from the time I started, and then it's been about 2 years since then at this point, 2.5 years. So yeah, I'm like, I feel like a veteran in the industry. Like I feel like a lot of people say I'm an OG when it comes to that stuff, which is kind of weird because I was like, I'm like still pretty young,
still
but
like 25.
yeah, but like in consumer social, it's like I said, like once you get to a certain age, you kind of just like age out because it's definitely
Makes sense.
it's a young person's game because it's like if you're young, you know what young people want. But I have a little brother and sister who are 10 years younger, so they keep me abreast with what's going on.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
that's funny. I just had this podcast with this guy Nick Sharma. He was my last. You're familiar with him?
I am.
And I asked him. So he did this thing where he built Hint Water, and then after he exited the company, he just spent, I think it was like 6 months of emailing all the founders in New York City and just like offering get a free coffee with them and picking their brains and asked them what was the biggest takeaway from that. And he was like, I thought like all these guys that were killers were going to be like really impressive individuals.
Yeah.
And they just weren't.
No, they're not.
And you just like, you realize that it's just a game, in his words, of like obsession.
It is.
And you just have to stick with it. And once you have that, like, once you know the person and you see them, and you're like, oh, this guy isn't Steve Jobs like level of, oh my God. It really changes things. Like you can do this thing. You don't have to be a crazy genius or have some sort of like innate competitive advantage. Like you just have to be consistent.
Yeah, you have to just keep going and not quit. Like you just have to continue. Right? I think that's the hardest part is like when you're in that period of you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, it's really easy to give up because you're just like, I don't know what I'm doing here.
Yeah.
But like, it's when you feel that that you need to give up. It's like when you actually need to like double down.
Yeah.
And I've experienced that for years. It's like I build an app. I'm like, I don't know. It's like this. I've been working on this one a while, but it's just like, no, you just got to keep going. And I think that like a lot of people just quit. And I've seen a lot of really, really smart people that, were amazing at what they did and they just quit. They just stopped building apps, right? They just stopped shipping things and they were so close to having one that worked, but they just quit. And that's where you lose. I've never seen someone who's really smart and just doesn't stop. I've never seen them not succeed, right? Like I think that like being relentless and being obsessed, like you said, is super critical. And I had a similar experience to your friend where, when I made my money, I went and I met all these other guys. I met all these young guys who were my age that were also millionaires and, spent a lot of time networking. I did a very similar thing. I would do calls with founders like literally every day for months because I wanted to meet everybody.
Yep.
And I had the same experience of realizing, some of these people are impressive,
but
most of them are not. Most of them are just like, okay, yeah, they just never quit. And that's all it is.
They're just dudes.
They're just dudes. That's really it. And I feel like when I was outside of it, when I was like not at that level, I saw these guys who were successful as like, oh my God, they're so smart. And like, they have some ability that I don't and like all this stuff. And then like you meet them, you're like, no, totally normal people. Right. And that's good. It makes it seem more possible because it's extremely possible. I made money alongside a lot of my friends and, with different apps the same year. So it's like, I watched me and a handful of my friends, like just do it all together. And, when you see it happen and when you see your friends and you see like normal people succeed, you realize like, okay, I can do this.
I've been thinking about trying to lean into like my own unique competitive advantages and outsourcing parts of my business that aren't my competitive advantage.
Yeah.
And I've had trouble kind of trying to identify what those things are. Do you even think about that? Like what you're uniquely good at with your business? And did that just kind of come with you with time, with reflection? Like how'd you kind of identify those things that like you're uniquely good at?
So from a very young age, I had a really good eye for design.
Yeah.
So I developed very good taste. I was building entire cities on Minecraft and like designing architectural homes and stuff. And, then I was a big Lego kid. So I was like, my brain was very much like building and design and color. And I loved art as a kid. So as I got older, I learned Photoshop in high school. I designed my first app on Photoshop. So I kind of always had like
a design edge.
Yeah, I was at a design edge, and I think over the years it kind of developed from design into just like taste and like understanding what looks.
Can we talk about taste for a second? Because
can.
I think taste, as AI gets better and better, is going to become the most important skill.
I was literally talking about this with a friend of mine the other night who's a designer, and he said the exact same thing, that like AI is great for the coding aspect, but the design and the branding and the taste and the vibe, that's innately human. And I feel like that's why I feel safe for now with AI. Like I'm good for now, because like AI getting taste is going to take a long time.
And even if it gets taste, it's like, I think the people with real taste are going to be able to put their own unique flair to it.
Yeah, for sure.
There's I don't know. There's something unique about taste that is going to be, I think, the separating factor for a lot of people.
Agree.
Even with like the podcast, for example, like having taste and good guests is pretty much the name of the game.
Absolutely.
Because like this thing that like I'm doing right now of just like letting you talk isn't that hard. But getting the right people on at the right time is the part of the game that people are interested in. Like they come for the guest.
Absolutely. I mean, and I think the aspect of taste, of just like knowing what works and what doesn't, knowing what people will like and what they won't like, I think is like it's a skill that's valuable across like every business. Yeah. Right. It's just like, I think it comes down to understanding people. Like I tell people, like a lot of what I do day to day is just like psychology. Like when I'm building an app and I'm designing these screens, and I'm like, the reason I'm making the button, big and green and pulsing is because I want you to tap it, right? Like I'm doing these things because I'm just looking at like how do I move someone through an experience and they don't even think, like they just do. It's like this innate like understanding, this operating on instinct, right? And that I think comes with taste, of just knowing like how are people going to interact with software, and knowing the cognitive load of a screen, and like not wanting to put too much there, and how do you direct their eyes, and how do you like make this. And I feel like every app that I build, like my skills build on it, because I make new mistakes and I find new, I make new hypotheses that I'm then proven either correct or false. And then I just get better. And it's like, it's the same thing of when I didn't have successful apps. I just kept building and then learned from the market.
So human psychology.
Absolutely.
Like a massive part of what you do.
Huge.
And did you go out of your way to learn to like seek out books in human psychology in that whole game, or was it mainly through the iteration process of creating apps?
It's mainly through the iteration process. Yeah, mainly.
It's the way to do it, man.
Yeah, I mean, like you just do it, right? Yeah. Like you just decide, like, okay, let's just try. Yeah. And that's what happened with me. And then I think over the years I just got better at like knowing what was gonna work, and like just knowing innately. And then it allowed me to help a lot of other people too. I advise and mentor most other people in the consumer app space that are big. Like they were talking with me years ago, and I was telling them like, don't quit. Right.
Yeah.
And I've got great friends that are now very successful and run multi-million-dollar a month apps. And it's great to see that there's like a whole class of people. So yeah. I ultimately though, I do believe that what separates you from kind of that, like all the people that are trying and the people that succeed, is just that the people who succeed loved the process of just trying and iterating and getting better. Like you have to love the journey. Like it sounds so cliche, but like
it's cliche for a reason, right?
Like I remember my mentor years ago, he told me, he's like, you have to enjoy the journey. And I was like, okay, yeah. I was like, but I want $1 million. He's like, listen, he goes, when you get there, you're gonna realize it was not about the destination, it was about the journey. And he was right. And I feel like I'm now part of the reason I'm traveling and living life more is I'm like, let's enjoy the journey. Yeah. Not be so focused on the next goal, because, I would hit a goal and then I would not feel good. And I would be like, well, when I hit another goal, I'll feel good. And you just get on this like treadmill that's just not healthy, and you have to just enjoy the climb.
Was there something that happened on that, like, because obviously you have a realization point that you come to where you're like, oh, this is more isn't going to be any better than current.
Yeah.
What do you do at that point?
It was like a mini quarter life crisis.
Yeah, I
you
can
know?
imagine.
It was a
Good to have it sooner rather than later, right?
yeah, right. Like I remember, it just kind of one of the reasons that I wanted to build in fintech is I was just like, that's when I had the realization, like, I don't want to compete with myself. Like I'm not on the path where I can become my prime life path version of myself if I stay in this like dopamine treadmill. So that's kind of when I just like zoomed out and I just kind of realized like I have to focus on mission and purpose again, not the money, right? Like, cause you start with mission and purpose, then you kind of cut your teeth and you learn that like, okay, this is a hard world and things aren't easy. You need money. Then you focus on the money aspect, but then at some point you have to get a little out of that and then be like, okay, because money is energy, right? So just how do you manipulate energy and how do you move people around in an effective way? And at some point you realize that like, it's not about money. It's just about like, I want to build something that is good for the world and like helps people and solves a problem. And that's more motivating than the money because the money will just come.
Yep.
Like if you build a good product that people like, you will make money. And I feel like once you make money, you realize, okay, now let's not focus on that solely. Let's actually build something that has, purpose and can impact the world positively.
I'm just almost maybe not realizing this now, but considering this for the first time. Do you think taste is a form of like emotional intelligence?
Absolutely.
Yeah, like those two things almost go hand in hand in a way.
So I have a take where I think I believe the most successful founders in consumer social specifically and in apps, consumer apps, have really high EQ.
Mm-hmm.
I think EQ
makes sense, right?
It's way more important than IQ, especially because it's like, yeah, you understand people. And if you understand people, you understand psychology. And if you understand psychology, you have like a level of taste with product and you kind of know, are people going to like this? Are they going to hate this? Are they going to tap that button? Are they going to, they going to allow the permission for contacts? Like all these things you just kind of, they all open up if you have really high EQ. And some people would disagree where they're like, oh no, you have to be ruthless. And it's like, that's not about EQ. EQ is like, are you good at people? Like, do you understand how to read someone and how to look at them and have a conversation and like how to move them around in a way that they feel good about, right? And I think that's what the best apps do is they tap into that innate human desire and then they serve it up in a very tasteful way.
I was once talking to this guy who didn't go to college, started off as an intern at this big Fortune 500 company, ended up staying at that company for I think like 40 years, became the CEO of the company.
Wow.
And I was like, I asked him like, how did you do that? Like, because obviously there's millions of people that are more qualified on paper. And he was just like, I don't know. I think emotional intelligence, and that's all he said. But I think just by being good with people, and like understanding people, you can. I wonder if it applies like much further than just consumer social and the fact
does.
of rising up the ranks of different things.
I think it applies across the board. Well, for me, it's just that's like the world I've only done one thing like my whole life. It's just been apps, which I feel very lucky that I found what I love to do.
Yeah, it's cool. Do you think you'll go past that? I mean, nowadays, like with AI agents and Shopify App Store, and there's there's a lot of different ways you can kind of use those skills.
I think eventually, yeah, eventually. I mean, I want to be someone who has kind of multiple lives, right? Like, I'm in this period of my life now, and 20 years from now, I'll probably be doing something totally different. But I think I'll still be in the same realm of like what I want to do, which is like just build products for millions and eventually billions of people.
Hell yeah.
A lot of my friends, are in like the personal branding space and, very, very successful influencers. I didn't have any personal brand shit though. Yeah. Like when I built my companies, like it was just like nothing. Like I'm private on Instagram. So it's like I think Twitter is like the only app that I like actually will like post on for publicly for people. I don't know, just cause like I just never cared about the personal brand side. And I think that now I'm, working on it a little bit, but my focus is still my business. Like at the end of the day, like I don't sell any products. Like I'm not selling a course. I'm not selling mentorship, none of that. But like I am like kind of selling, hey, use my apps.
Yeah.
Right? And they're free, so it's like, if you don't want to pay, you don't have to. But if you want to send anonymous messages, please use NGL. If you want to trade crypto, please use bags. But that's like, I never really did a personal brand just because it doesn't move the needle in my space. But now I'm getting more into like, that game little by little.
It's interesting, right? I've had this conversation with a friend who's a business owner, but then all their marketing for their business is like their personal brand. And they're like, yeah, I have a lot of go back and forth, kind of have this inner dialogue of, do I want to be a creator? Do I want to be a business owner? Because a lot of times those things are like opposite ends of the spectrum. You guys spend a lot of time on one or the other.
100%. I mean, that's true. I mean, for me, I don't want to be a creator.
Yeah, I feel that.
Being a creator is very hard. And I have friends that are some of the biggest creators in the world, and I respect the hell out of them because it's hard. But for me, it's just like, it just wasn't my skill set.
I feel that.
I can plan videos, right? I know what'll go viral, but like I'm not doing it.
Yeah. The podcast is a bit of a different beast though. It's like it's more it's realer in a way.
100%. Yeah. I mean, I'm very like straight up with, my advice to anyone and, in the industry. And like, I think that I want to get more people building apps. It's like, I think that like, it's the best place to be, especially if you're young. Like, I think it's like, it's only going to grow. So my doing podcasts and being more public is more about like, I just want to spread the good word about apps and like, hey, you guys should come into this space. And like, I want to be involved in as many as possible. And I love mentoring young founders because, I had a kid call me. He was in high school. I've had multiple kids in high school that would hit me up, and I'd get on phone calls with them. And within a few years, like they're multimillionaires. And that's great to see.
That's so sick.
And that makes me really happy to see them crushing. And there's a lot of those guys.
Yeah. It's I don't think people realize enough how like how small the world is in the sense of like you can DM a lot of people and they'll respond to you. Like I only learned that through the DMs of trying to get people on the podcast.
Yeah.
But like if you just ask a question or if you have something that you're dealing with that you want advice for there's so many creators, especially like those micro creators, that will get back to you and that will give you an answer. It's crazy.
No, it's wild. You mean you literally could reach out to anyone.
Yeah, you have so many resources.
And if you can, I think it's like for me, I tell this to people like, if you're gonna reach out to someone, like how do you provide value to them?
Yeah,
right? Like that's like number one, right? Someone that DMs me just asking for something, it's like, well, I'm not as inclined. But
100%.
it's like, hey, I have this skill set, I can do this. I have this perspective, whatever it is, like just something to offer that is valuable. That's how you get around high value people. Like you just have to have something. So like with me, like before I had made millions of dollars, like I had friends that were making millions of dollars. And I was just like the guy that was really, really good at product and really good at design. So it's like I had value. So that's why they wanted me around. And you really are the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And I think once I changed my circle and I started hanging out with really high value and hardworking people, within a year, I was one of them. And then I realized these guys actually aren't that impressive, right? So then you move on to the next level, and then you realize, well, these people aren't really that impressive either, but there's a few of them that I like. And you just kind of continue rising up the ranks and just getting better.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And like, there's obviously that time period where you kind of feel a disconnect. You're starting to feel that disconnect and you haven't had that tangible success yet.
Yeah.
But by just like you were saying before, providing value, and there's a lot of different ways you can do that. Like for a podcast, for example, because it's easy. Making 3 clips from an episode literally. And DMing almost any podcast or most of the mid-size and smaller ones, you will get a response. You will get a thank you, and if you have good work, they'll probably hire you.
100%.
And it's crazy.
Well, I mean, one of my friends is an extremely talented editor, and he works with some of the biggest influencers and podcasts. I literally editing the clips, editing everything.
Yep.
He's built accounts to 10 million followers on TikTok, and he's all about just providing value. If there's one editor, it's my boy Caleb. Shout out Caleb. There's one editor that I trust. It's him. And the way he got around high value people is he just provided value. And I look across the board at like, I tell everyone just pick a skill. Doesn't matter. design, engineering, marketing, growth, videography, editing, doesn't matter. Just pick a skill, get really, really good at it, and then go provide value to other people. And then what you'll kind of find is that if you do that over and over again, you develop this kind of friend group and these people it's almost like a bench to like, draft a team. And it's like, okay, I need a marketing guy, I need an engineer, I need a designer, I need this person, that person. And if you provide value to other people, they're going to provide value to you. And then you realize like, oh, there's actually really complementary skills here. And that's how I've built my businesses. It's just like meeting people, being like, okay, well, I'm good at this, you're good at that. Let's come together and we'll be amazing. And I feel like that's how you really can build teams.
Next level stuff.
Yeah, that's next level stuff. And it's like, that's where you go, like where networking and making friends is actually like meeting potential co-founders and business partners and like, friends of value.
I mean, speaking my language, dude, I think about with the podcast, all the people I've met through the podcast and so forth. And like even yesterday, I hit up this guy that's really good on TikTok affiliate. And I was like, yo, by the way, blah, 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 thinking about this supplement. How hard do you think it would be to like get it out there and get it viral on TikTok Shop? And just gave me like a full breakdown of everything. And it's like, that is stuff that people pay a lot of money for.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And just by, creating that network of people, the podcast is kind of a life hack to get that network faster. But yeah, it's a game changer.
It is. No, it definitely is. But I mean, I really see it as like when it comes to building businesses and like doing it young, you want to do it with people that like you enjoy doing it with, right? Like I've built lots of companies. I built companies with people that I would build business with again, and I have worked with people that I would not work with again. And the only way you're going to learn, like, how do you like a complementary co-founder is super important. So the only way you're going to learn is like go meet a bunch of people, go build some businesses, and see who you like to work with. Because and I've been very fortunate that I've met great co-founders, and they own the lane that they own, and I own my lane. So
I think that's so important.
Like I have my domain. I decide what the flow is, what the look is, what the vibe is. And then I work with my engineers, I work with my marketing people, and then I tweak what I'm doing to fit what they're doing. And I feel like that's also really important is like as a founder, you don't want to be rigid. Like you want to hire good people, you want to listen to what they have to say. And if they have good ideas and the ideas work, and you just give them more and more autonomy, because that's the only way you can build like a team of hundreds and thousands of people. Like you need lieutenants and generals, and you need people that are on the front lines with you. And I feel like there's a lot of founders that, when you're starting out, you're doing everything, right? Or you're doing a lot of things. And then as you scale, you almost have to transition into more like an operator. And I feel like I'm in this stage now of like kind of beginning that transition of like, I do all my own design. I don't think it'll be like that for much longer, just because there's other things in the business that I will need to focus on. But that's a great journey, to be honest. Like, okay, I love this aspect of the business. I love owning this lane. But I know that I could probably bring other people on, teach them what I have, and be more of an operator. And that transition is like, I think everyone goes through it, as far as founders.
No doubt about it. And I think that this idea of like the solopreneur right now is super popular.
It is.
But you can only get so far.
I personally don't like being the lone founder. I've done it. It's very lonely. It's especially when like you haven't made it yet. It's like really lonely. And it's like I would rather give away half the business to someone who's worth it, and have someone by my side when shit is hard. And I'd rather crawl through the mud with someone and have each other's back than go through it alone just because I want more money. That's how I always look at it. Like I want to win with people.
And there's so many things like when it's just you in your own mind that you think sound like good ideas, and then if you like stress test them against someone else who's smart and knows what they're doing and knows the business inside and out, changes things. Probably could go much further.
100%. Whenever I build things and I create apps, like I just tell my friends, all right, like roast this.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Tell me, I'm like, I have no emotion here. Like, just tell me what you like and what you hate, and like, tell me why. And I like people that are just straight up with me. Like I don't surround myself with yes men. Like my friends will tell me when they think I'm doing something right or doing something wrong, and that's not just in business. Like it's in every aspect of life.
You just gave me a TikTok idea. I want to go to college campus,
Mm-hmm.
show them my website, and just go up to random kids with a
Yeah.
video camera. Be like, roast this website.
What do you think?
What do
Roast
you
the
think?
website.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No emotion. That'd be cool. Cool
no
concept.
motion. Yeah, no motion. Right? Because it's like I want to get better. Right?
Yep.
So it's like, let me get some constructive criticism.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
We got the red light blocking or the blue light blocking glasses.
Yes, of course.
The red light glasses. We got the Mountain Valley here.
Of course.
We talked a little bit grounding and stuff. When did you get into the health side of things?
I think I got into it. I'd say that my family started getting into it, and that's kind of how I did.
Nice.
My mom and my stepdad started getting tested for they would get their blood tested, they get all these things done, and then I was like, you know what, I feel like I should do this because I have a biohacking doctor that's a family friend, and he's a very successful biohacking doctor. Like a lot of people know him, and he was telling me, he's like, I was 23 at the time. He's like, if you do this now, he goes, you're gonna be so healthy in 20 years. It's gonna be crazy. And so I was like, all right, you know what? I'll do it. So I started with just like getting my levels tested, taking supplements, and then just getting more and more into it. And then I discovered that all the food was poison. So that's
a fun rabbit hole to dive into.
Oh, it's great. I mean, I remember never looking at the labels of what I was eating, and now I can't even imagine doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd say like I had my like awakening to these things starting in 2019, 2020. And then really 2022, 2023, I think I went way harder into that and making sure that I'm always exercising and eating clean, getting good sleep, and just like the biohacking space is only beginning. I believe that our generation will live to 150, like minimum. So the earlier you start getting serious about health, I think it will pay like immense dividends when it comes to like longevity, especially with like Brian Johnson and all those guys are doing.
So it's so cool. I mean, that's what my business does. We sell blood tests direct to consumer.
Yeah, I love that.
It's just the idea of focusing on your health, being proactive with your health.
Yeah.
Such a game changer for things. And like even my clarity of thought. So much things have changed from focusing on like just getting rid of like inflammatory stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, when you cut out processed foods, when you cut out artificial dyes, when you cut out, natural flavors, which are not natural. If you cut all that stuff out, yes, you have less brain fog, and you actually can focus more. When I eat a very balanced and healthy meal, I can go work for like 6 hours afterwards and be fully focused. And I think that like that's a really important thing for everyone, not just people in business or like not even just men, like just everyone. Like the food is poison. Most of the household items are also poison. Most of the soaps are poison. Like there's endocrine disruptors everywhere. Like you're it's like a minefield, and you have to be learning, and you have to you have to get that side of the health down, because it doesn't matter. You could be a multi-billionaire, but if you're out of shape and overweight and have bad health, and it doesn't even matter, right?
Yeah.
Like,
what's it all for?
What's it all
for? Enjoy it.
Absolutely. Like, but you see a guy who's successful and he's in great shape and like he's healthy and he's dialed on his health. It's just like, oh, he's got it all.
Mm-hmm.
And it helps you go a lot further. And that's why we see, Mark Zuckerberg fighting, and doing, and, he's grappling with UFC guys. And you see like, Jeff Bezos is ripped now, right? Like, these guys, the people at the highest levels understand that.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're a young guy and you're like, it's starting out, like if you can't like make a shit ton of money, just like go to the gym and like get bigger arms and like go get a 6-pack. And then when you go do that, you'll feel really good. And you'll probably feel more motivated in your business, and you'll probably be willing to take more risks and do more and work harder, because you have like one aspect of life where like you're like winning, right? So it's like the one thing you can control is your health and your body.
No doubt. And if you think about like the gym is probably the first example a lot of young men have of showing up for something every single day.
Yep.
And then slowly getting a reward for that thing.
Yeah.
And
it's slow.
And then, but once you develop that base and you have a really good base, and you almost understand the path of getting good at anything.
Yeah.
That like, okay, I just need to do this thing day in, day out,
100%.
have a routine around it.
Yeah.
Just show up and things will work out in your favor.
Absolutely. I mean, and like my dad for years would, just tell me like, you should do push-ups every day. And I had a lot of men that were like, just do it. And I was like 16. I was like,
Nice.
no.
Yeah.
And then I got to like 21 and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do push-ups every day. And so it's like, I tell young guys like, just do like 50 to 100 push-ups every single day. And in 2 years, your body's like completely different. Like it's crazy. Like, I was like I was a super late bloomer as a kid. Like I was 4'10" when I started high school.
Whoa.
Yeah. I was prepubescent until like 16. So, I was like a really like skinny, scrawny kid. And then I got older and I just like, once I started eating right and like exercising, like I went from like a size small shirt to an extra large, right? Like I went from like wearing like a small sized suit to like a much bigger jacket. And it's like, when you see that you can change your health and your body, it also makes you think like, well, you can change your business and your finances and your personal relationships and everything. Like it's the same process.
Principle. Yeah, same process.
Principles.
Hunter, anything we haven't talked about today that we'd be remiss if we didn't cover?
I don't know. We've covered a lot. Are there any areas we should go deeper in that you think?
Let's think about this. So I think, what do you think people are most interested in that don't, let's say they aren't someone who wants to get into building an app, but because for you, I'm sure there's so many of these little principles that apply universally, whether you're building an app, building an e-com business, building any business really. What do you think some of those things are?
Making people feel very comfortable on your product. I think that's important. Like trust. Right? You get to build trust. Something
that's a hard thing to do sometimes.
Very hard to build. Yeah. It's very hard to build trust because you lose it really quickly too. But I think trust and comfort, making people feel that what they're doing or what they're buying is cool. That's really important, right? Like the only reason people share anything, in my opinion, is because they don't think it's lame to share it, right? But if like they have even like a little bit of that, little inclination of like,
and it could be really small because people care,
tiny, and it's like that's where all those small taste things come into play. Because if you make someone uncomfortable, or you make them cringe, or you make them confused, like any of these things kind of all attribute to like not being cool, and they'll just leave. Whether it's a drop shipping site, whether it's an app, what doesn't matter. Whether it's a physical store, like it doesn't matter. It's all about like, do I feel comfortable and do I feel cool for doing this action? And if you can get someone to feel that way, then that's where millions of people will do it. Yeah, like but I think that's like universal across every business. Like make people feel comfortable, make users feel comfortable, make them trust you, and then build a really simple product that they just know what to do.
Hard to do.
Very hard to do.
Yeah,
very hard to do.
But it's one of those things that, then again, just by understanding that and having that in your brain, and just showing up daily and trying to get better at that, there's no other really secret sauce there besides for just understanding that and trying to apply it.
100%. And it's like for young guys that are out there and starting, like I think just focus on one skill. That's the way that's how you just get in the door. Just be really good at one thing. Be the guy that like you're good at that and people know you for that. And if you just work in that realm, you will succeed. Like I listened to, Brian Chesky of Airbnb and also Evan Spiegel of Snapchat said the same thing. And that, they call themselves design CEOs.
Interesting. That's a cool,
which I really liked.
Yeah.
And like design founders, which is like, they literally will sit with the design team and they will design the product with their team. And they're super just in the weeds on the product. And I feel like listening to them, these multi-billionaires say it, that's what kind of gave me the confidence of like, no, I can own this lane. Like I don't need to go learn everything else. I don't have to become the best programmer in the world. Like I could just be really, really good at design and really good at taste and really good at like creating product. And like these guys are multi-billionaires, and that's what they did. And I met mentors who are multi-billionaires that do the exact same thing. That like I sit with them and we design apps together, and it's like it's cool because when I was starting out, I thought like, oh no, I have to be like this super well-rounded founder, and I have to have all these different skills. And like you don't. You could be really specialized and go extremely far.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm reading this book right now, $1 Billion Loser. Have you heard of it? It's called The Rise and Fall of WeWork.
Oh,
and it's
yeah,
all
it's a great
about
story.
yeah,
Great
crazy story.
Yeah.
But all this guy was good at was raising money.
Yeah.
They were a disaster, but
Mhm.
he was so good
Yeah.
at selling the vision,
Yeah.
and that was all he was really good at. And they got,
That's it.
I think their evaluation was like over $100 billion,
Crazy.
and they were a disaster. And there
Yeah.
was companies that other co-working businesses
Yeah.
that had more revenue than them, more profit than them. They were losing millions and millions of dollars a month, and they were valued at like $1 billion. And
Crazy.
they were $100 billion company, and they were much smaller than that company.
Yeah.
So even by just having this skill, even all his only skill was being able to sell pitch deck.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that like if you can instill like a vision in your people, whether that's investors or employees, but if you can just like get people to see your perspective and your worldview and agree with it, and kind of inspire them, that's how things like that happen. I mean, like the only reason that there's a lot of businesses that are extremely overvalued, but they're overvalued because the vision is so massive and the founder is so good at pitching that vision and inspiring the team and inspiring the outside world to just like believe in it. And I think I'm a big believer in the power of manifestation, especially collective manifestation. If you get enough people on the right frequency together, believing in the same thing, you do change the world because, we're all kind of sharing this dream environment together, right? We're all creating the world as we walk through it. So if you have a group of people that are super dialed on what they want and have a clear vision and are just working as a unit, like you can make waves and you can absolutely just change society however you want. But you need that group of people, and you have to be able to inspire them and make them believe in something bigger than themselves. And that's what the best entrepreneurs in the world are good at. That's Elon Musk's biggest skill, is getting people to just be like, yes, I love this vision. I'm going all in, and it's going to be impossible, but we're going to do it. And then also being on the front lines with your people, right? Like there's many times where my engineers, they want to pull an all-nighter and I'm so tired. But I'm like, all right,
Fuck
fine.
it.
Like, fuck it. Let's go.
Yeah,
right?
we ride.
Like we were in Singapore and I was there with all my engineers, and it was like our first night there. And it was the first time meeting one of my engineers in person. And they were like, we're working all night. And I just got off a plane. It was like 30 hours of travel. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Like, let's go. Like, I'm going to be with my people on the front lines. Like, I'm not coding it, but like I'm sitting with them in the room doing, and being there as part of the energy, working on my angle. I think that's super important. Like you're never above the work as a founder. Like you're never above the
point.
work. You have to do the work. And that's why I respect founders who are just like in the weeds. Like they're really in it. They're not just sitting on their high horse directing. Like they're operating, right? But they're also in the weeds on the product, and they're really involved in those day-to-day decisions when it comes to the product. But yeah, those are just some of the founders I admire. They really adopt that.
I love that vision. I think that's so cool. And even going back to what you were saying before about the manifestation and the power in the collective, like
Absolutely.
that was something I had no idea was really even a thing, or I never really thought about it. And then I did this here in Miami. There's this place called the Miami Ice Club, and it's like a Wim Hof breathing, and then everyone hops in the cold plunge. And I've done Wim Hof so many times, but I did it in this group with 30 people. 20x, 100x more intense of an experience. It was like, you know how you vibrate a little bit?
Yeah.
Felt like that 10x. It felt like the ringing was 10x. And every single time I do it on my own versus every single time I go there, it's a totally different experience. And there's something about the collective of everyone doing it together that charges the experience. It's
everyone's on the same frequency,
Yeah.
and it's like if you get people that are doing that, like it's magic, right? That's why I travel with my friends, because they're on the same mindset as me and similar missions, and just in their own lanes. So when you get those people together, like you really push each other. And I love going to the gym with friends and doing cold plunge, because then I'm going to sit in there for 3 minutes if my friend's there, because I'm like, well, he's sitting in there and he's got the energy. So I'm going to do the same thing. And I think that it's like, you want to be around people who just like push you to get better, because the collective is essential. And, I think a big reason why I was successful in business is I had a really good understanding of psychology, and I had a really good understanding of how the world worked. I studied a lot of, old philosophy books and understanding like Egyptian mystery school things, and like all these old concepts of like how reality works, and learning how to align your chakras and how to like really get spiritual and tap in. And I think that was extremely helpful in me being successful in business, just because like if you understand how your own mind works and how your mind creates your own reality, you can hack it. And then you can kind of manifest your way to success, because the manifestation is really just, it's focus, right? It's like you have a dream, you have a goal, you see it clearly, you feel it. And then because we live in, we live in a reality where the only thing that separates you from who you want to be is just a different state of consciousness. Like, you 5 years ago, you 10 years from now, it's still you. It's the same body, it's the same person. But what separates you is that the you in the future is at a different kind of consciousness, thinking about different things, operating differently. That's something that separates it. So if you can feel that, if you kind of pull that information out of the future and feel what it's like to have that thing and what it feels like to be successful and be grateful for that emotion, the universe just creates a path directly there, as long as you then follow up with hard work. So I'm a big believer, if anyone's starting in business, like, learn about the law of attraction, learn about manifestation, learn about the law of assumption, learn about all these things that you can do, because it's how the most powerful people in the world operate. And I also tell people, like, if you want to really understand how the world works, you got to learn numerology and you have to learn astrology as well, because millionaires don't use that shit, but billionaires do.
Explain that, because I've seen some tweets and I've seen some people talk about that, and I never really truly understand that.
Well, it's very real. Everything is cycles, right?
In what regard, though? Because it's a lot of things with like astrology, let's say, compatibility and all this stuff. I don't know if it's that side of it is legit.
I don't think every side of all those things is legit. I think that it's more about what you pull from it. But a friend of mine had this interesting take of, if we live in some kind of, matrix, some kind of simulation or hologram, whatever it is, there has to be an algorithm for how people act. There has to be, right? Like if you're building a game, like you're going to build, if we're going to build an algorithm about what are people like, what do they do, who are they compatible with, how should they live their life, what's their life path, what are they good at, what are they bad at, that would absolutely exist if you were building a matrix. So I feel that that's all this stuff is, the numerology and astrology. It's just like, it's understanding energy, because numbers are just representations of energy. That's all it is. And I think that if you learn it, and you learn it from an angle of like, okay, I'm going to use this to get ahead, versus like, oh, I'm just going to like sit around and like, study this stuff and like, only focus on the things that maybe aren't legit. But I do think that if you really take the lessons in it and try to apply it, like it really works.
Interesting.
Everything is cycles, everything, life is seasons, right? There's seasons where you make a lot of money. There's seasons where you fall in love. There's seasons where you get your heart broken. There's seasons where you're in the trenches grinding with no end in sight. Like it's just seasons. Yeah. And the seasons are just these cycles of energy. So if you learn numerology and astrology and you learn more things about how the world works, you realize that everything is a cycle. So how do you time it right? How do you use certain things at the right moment to amplify your energy? And that's really why I look into that stuff.
Yeah. And if you want like a simple, real example that almost everyone's experienced with that is like right when you get a girlfriend, right when you start having success with girls, it's just like everything, like the girls, the other girl, like you have so much more. Your interactions with females are completely different. Like you get a girlfriend, and then next thing you know, you get all of this female focus on you from girls that never, you never thought were interested. It's true. Such a weird little,
super weird,
and it happened. Like everyone experiences that. It's such a weird thing.
It's a very weird thing, and I mean, women are very spiritually in tune. They're far smarter than men when it comes to
super intuitive.
Super intuitive, and I think that like I mean that happens.
Yeah,
it definitely happens. And I think that like dating, I think is you have to have people that are on your team. Right? You have to have if you're gonna date, you need someone that is like on your same wavelength and has the similar, plan for life. And I think that like, young guys now, I think are too focused on just dopamine and, satisfaction. Like that's all they care about. And it's like, no, you need to build with people, and you need to build with good friends and good relationships at the same time. It's just so essential. If you're in the wrong relationship with the wrong person, doesn't make you feel good, who doesn't motivate you, who doesn't believe in you the way they need to, you're not going to go as far because you spend the most time with that person. And I think that like every man has to kind of learn that lesson. Right? We all have to kind of go through it. And I think most men kind of live a similar life. Like we all, like the same things have kind of happened to all of us. You know, we've all, had, we've lost friends, we've lost relationships, we've had those periods of being alone and having to focus on yourself. Like, I feel like most men, especially in their 20s, have that moment of just like, fuck it, like I'm going to the gym, like I'm going to focus on myself. Like we all live very similar lives. And I think that it just comes down to like, you need to have good people around you. Right? It's just like, you have to. And I tell young people all the time, like, just because you're in the trenches and you're building, like, don't sacrifice the other piece of your life, because you need peers. You need people around you that are really valuable. So, that's just as impactful as sitting down and pulling an all-nighter and working. Is like, go to that networking event, go to that dinner with these guys you want to meet, go and learn from these people and collect good energy around you, create a solid support system, because that's essential. That's super essential. And I think that was a big part of, my early career, is just like, I want to go meet people that are on the same mindset as I am. And once I met those people, I became like them very quickly. And then I started recruiting more people, and it's like this collective grew, and it's really cool. My friends and I talk about how, we're really in this age of, we're in this age of enlightenment. We're in the age of Aquarius now. Everything's changing. Society's moving fast, and we're really kind of creating a new way of life. And if you look at like, what's happened in the space as far as like the Overton window, right? The things that we were talking about 5 years ago that were taboo to talk about, now everybody talks about them, right? And everything's kind of shifting, and we're creating this new world. And it's really exciting. I feel like we're at this like incredible crossroads of history at this moment. And it's just exciting to see like what the next 20 years is going to bring, because everything is going to change. We look at technology now, and it's just like, can't even imagine where it's going to be in 20 years.
It's a little scary, but
it is very scary.
But yeah. I'm optimistic.
I'm also optimistic.
I always feel like the dawn or the end of the world has always kind of been upon us in some way. Like if you read about like the industrial age and all this stuff, there's always been this sense that this new invention is gonna change everything. The steam engine's
gonna get rid of
ruin everything. Yeah, and it's always but then we always find a way to figure it out. So
we do.
I'm optimistic.
Yeah, I mean, I think that AI and robotics will create the greatest age of abundance we've ever seen in human history.
Hard to even imagine what that would be like.
You can't even imagine it. Like it's like, we are not going to fix our society, but we're building something that will fix it, right? So it's like, you think about what's the world in 20 years and how much more beautiful is it? How much cleaner is it? Think about when you have 500, Tesla robots building buildings 24/7, 365, through rain, through snow, through heat, doesn't matter. Like they're building. And it's like, what will society look like? It'll be so abundant. It will be unbelievable. And it's like also all of the jobs that people don't want to do will be gone. And I think that it will allow people to be creative again. I mean, we used to, thousands of years ago, we would just build beautiful buildings, right? That's why you have all these buildings all over the world that are just gorgeous, right? And it's like, the Sistine Chapel, and you have all these gorgeous spires and gold domes. And it's like, yeah, that was their work. It's like, I'm going to build this beautiful thing that's going to last the test of time. And I kind of feel like we're moving back into that, and AI will allow us to do it, and it will create just so much abundance. And I think it'll also, like, when you enter that age of abundance, like, we really can kind of collectively transcend money. Because I think that, money right now it handicaps you in every way. And I think that it's because we live in a world of like finite resources and finite skill sets and talent. It's like, once that becomes infinite, and you can have 3 robotic helper droids doing all your chores for you, like, that's going to change everything.
Yeah, it'll be interesting though, because I feel like there's an aspect of human nature that we need a yardstick to compare ourselves to our neighbor.
Yeah.
And money has kind of served as that purpose. So I don't know. I'm curious. I really
I hope that we can transcend it collectively.
We'll see. Yeah. I don't know. We'll see.
It's very tough, because we live in a world that's it's a very selfish, greedy, all about me world. But there's something about like, when we're no longer fighting over the resources and the abundance and the human capital and the intelligence, right? Like when we have AGI and we can solve any problem, we can build anything. I just think that it can also shift our collective consciousness. As like, let's work towards bigger goals together, right? Rather than fighting over bullshit, you know. And that's where I'm super excited about where the world is moving. But it's going to be very scary, especially as we enter this period. It's going to get very weird very quickly. It already has with AI content. You know, I remember a couple of years ago, the AI content was horrible. And then now it's like, oh, that's indistinguishable. I could not tell.
I get those really funny reels that come up sometimes. I don't know if you do as well, but of like a interview and the voice, it's their voice, but it's AI, like LeBron, for example, and it would be like an AI or LeBron's AI voice giving an interview.
So funny. Over
LeBron, and it's hilarious.
It's hilarious.
But it's a little scary sometimes when you think about the
scary.
direction that could go, and the ability to not know fact from fiction. It'll be interesting.
And I do think that AI content, it's going to saturate everything.
Yeah.
And it'll be cool for a little bit when you can, prompt a whole world and it's an immersive game experience and maybe you're in some kind of VR simulation. But I think there's going to be a point where people are going to want real again. And I think that's really what I'm looking at is like,
I like that.
When do we get to that point? I think that it's going to take time, but we're going to first like go fully into the matrix. And then I think people will decide, okay, yeah, this AI content's cool and I can create whatever I want. I can live all my dreams through this simulation, but like, I'd actually rather be in touch with my spirituality and be around good people.
Go touch grass.
Go touch grass, right? It's like, I think that like, that's where I look at like the world in, 40, 50 years is like totally different, right? Like we're going to go through this weird period, but then like, I do ultimately think that we'll end in this like incredible age of spirituality and mindfulness and, just the collective consciousness of humanity is waking up and everyone's kind of vibrating differently and you can kind of feel it starting right now. So, I can't imagine like, 40, 50 years ago, like, how people acted, right? And they couldn't imagine how we would be now. People in the 1970s, like couldn't even fathom the way we live. So it's like, look at people in the, the 2070s, like they're going to look at us just like, you guys used to kill each other in cars. Like you used to, like what? That's so crazy. Like,
I know.
Like there's so many concepts that we don't even understand. Like you would carry around some screen all day long. You didn't have some robot following you everywhere. Like, the way that we live now is going to be indistinguishable from how we live in 50 years, which is like pretty cool.
Yeah.
To kind of live and to live at like this moment of, you and I come from the same generation, right? Where like we grew up on the internet and we grew up like using all the original social platforms and all the original apps. And it's like, it's changed so much, but it's like, it's going to change way more.
Yeah. I wonder how everything's going to work out with like longevity, like we quickly mentioned that, and it's going to be fascinating.
It is.
No matter what, I'm excited.
Yeah, same. I'm very optimistic about the future.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, me as well. Hunter, dude, I appreciate you, bro.
Thank you.
This was awesome.
This was great, bro.
I really enjoyed doing this.
Likewise.
I'm glad we were able to make this one work today.
100%, bro.
Awesome, bro.
Dude,
where should people find you if they want to see more?
They want to find me on Twitter and on Instagram, just Hunter J Isaacson.
We got you public now.
Maybe
we'll see. Okay.
We'll see. I will accept follow requests.
Okay.
And then if you want to join Bags and start trading, just go to bags.fm/$hunter.
Just don't take my meme trading advice. That's my only recommendation.
You know what? Everyone follow him on Bags. Let's see your plays. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been fun. I was talking your plays for a while.
Okay.
Right when we got started.
Yeah, I'm down tremendous right now. So
hey, man, it happens.
It's what it is.
It's a fun game, though. It's fun.
It is.
But dude, I appreciate you.
Likewise.
Thank you for doing this, dude.
Thank you.
Peace. Awesome.
Beautiful, bro.
Thank you.
Good shit.
Fun.